On this day, 60 years ago, Whistler Mountain opened for skiing. The milestone came as Highway 99 to the community was almost complete, replacing an old hydro service road. It was all part of a push by the Garibaldi Olympic Development Association to explore the potential of hosting a Winter Games in BC. Take a look at this CBC News story from 1967.
Snowbanked Whistler. Excellent skiing almost all year long. 75 miles from Vancouver, connected to the city by road and rail. A spectacular playground developing rapidly. $2 million in hotels and lodges have been built, and another $20 million on the drawing boards. Already 3,000 skiers are coming to Whistler each weekend. $1.5 million has so far been spent on facilities at the base, the runs, and transportation to the top. Dozens of 4-passenger gondolas start skiers on their half-hour ride up the mountain. At the halfway point, it's onto a chairlift to the 6,000-foot level. A T-bar reaches near the crest. Banff lost the Olympics because the site was in a national park. Part of Whistler is in Garibaldi Provincial Park, but the valley isn't. The skiing is Olympic caliber from the bowl at the crest to the valley, nearly 4 miles down the slopes. But the area is underdeveloped compared with Banff. It's been estimated only $20 million is needed to put Banff into shape for the Olympics. By comparison, Grenoble, France will need to spend perhaps 5 times that amount for the Games next year. But the men behind Garibaldi's bid are convinced their chances have never looked better.
Our next guest is a Whistler original. John Hetherington was on the ski patrol the 3rd year Whistler Mountain was operating, and he later worked as a heli ski guide. He joins us now. John, thanks for joining us. I have to ask, part of your work on the ski patrol in the late 60s, I understand, was testing for avalanche safety. A rather unique experience. How did you do that?
Well, we didn't really know a lot about avalanches then. We didn't have any of the science that came later. But generally, Hugh Smythe, who was the head of the patrol, and I would go around with a few sticks of foresight dynamite, and Hugh knew where some of the avalanches had occurred in the past. So when it snowed and we thought maybe there'd be some avalanches, we'd throw some dynamite and see what happened.
And would you just carry this in your backpack and then go up and do the tests?
Sure.
How did you make sure you didn't blow yourself up?
Well, you knew what you were doing. And, but, you know, ski patrol been carrying bombs, we'll call them, for years in pack sacks.
Wow. Amazing. And now, we mentioned you later worked as a heli ski guide, guiding people through some of the most remote and the high elevation runs. How did the experience of skiing in the backcountry on your own compare with guiding people down a mountain?
Well, we had a large tenure with the heli ski operation. Mm-hmm. And so we were skiing on a lot of the local mountains and going a long way to the north and to the northwest. And it was pretty interesting because you were skiing up in the mountains in fresh powder snow. The snow conditions varied depending on what the weather had been like, but it was pretty interesting. Yeah. And some phenomenal skiing.
Yeah. I can imagine. So, and I understand, do you still ski regularly?
Oh yeah, I was skiing today.
Lovely. And what do you remember from the time when you were doing it in the early days to now? How do they compare?
You mean, when I was on ski patrol?
Yeah, and just your decades of skiing generally and knowing that mountain so well.
Well, of course, there's a lot more people now. There's more lifts, there's more runs. We've got Blackcomb. But in the early days, there was only, for the first 15 years, there was only Whistler. Mm-hmm. And one of the really big changes is that there's an awful lot less permanent snow, and a lot of the ice has gone. Mm-hmm. So that the glacier in Glacier Bowl on Whistler is almost gone. Whereas when I was on patrol, it was big. Yeah. And we skied it fairly regularly. Wow. So the big changes to the amount of snow and ice that exists today compared to what there used to be.
When you see that difference and remember that difference, what goes through your mind when, like every other area in other areas of BC, we see the impacts of warming temperatures, climate change, and that kind of thing?
That's what we see. Big changes. And Whistler used to have a lot of permanent snow and a lot of permanent ice, but it turned out it wasn't all that permanent.
Mm-hmm. What are your hopes for the future when it comes to what's going to happen on the mountain there?
Who knows? I mean, eventually they'll just be, and they're already getting very close to it, just running on yearly snow, on the snow that comes with the winter. There'll be very, very little snow that's left over during the summer.
John Hetherington, we really appreciate your time and for taking us through a very interesting career that you've had. Enjoy the celebrations. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.